everyone. I'm Ravit, still at Juma camp in Ramachash in Sinai. Oh, what a heaven! What just like you cannot even imagine. It's like a private beach, small, only 8 rooms. Really, you can come here, few friends or all the family. Close everything for a week, for 2 weeks. Heaven. So let's get to business. Here is 1984 book, revolutionary book by George Orwell, and I've been reading it for a few months already. In Europe, I started reading it in a jacuzzi in Budapest. And continued in the beach in Ukraine, and here in Sinai. I'm continuing, and we reached to page 100, chapter 8, the end of part 1. So I will start from the last paragraph. Okay. I recognized you on the pavement, he said immediately. You're the gentleman that bought the young lady's keepsake album. That was a beautiful bit of paper that was cream laid. It used to be called. There's been no paper like that made for. Do you hear this silence? This is Sinai. For me, it's first of all this silence. The waves got this. Don't hear almost any waves, just pure silence. Here, and read it very quietly, and you will hear. Great. Perfecto. So, cream laid, it used to be called. There's been no paper like that made for, or I dare say, 50 years. He peered at Winston over the top of his spectacles. Is there anything special I can do for you? Or did you just want to look around? I was passing, said Winston vaguely. I just looked in. I don't want anything in particular. It's just as well, said the other, because I don't suppose I could have satisfied you. He made an apologetic gesture with his soft palmed hand. You see how it is. An empty shop, you might say. Between you and me, the antique trade's just about finished. No demand any longer, and no stock either. Furniture, china, glass, it's all been broken up by degrees. And of course, the metal stuff's mostly been melted down. I haven't seen a brass candlestick in years. The tiny interior of the shop was in fact uncomfortably full, but there was almost nothing in it of the slightest value. The floor space was very restricted because all around the walls were stacked innumerable dusty picture frames. In the window there were trays of nuts and bolts, worn out chisels, penknives with broken blades, tarnished watches that did not even pretend to be in going order, and other miscellaneous, miscellaneous rubbish. Only on a small table in the corner was there a litter of odds and ends, lacquered snuff boxes, agate brooches, and the like, which looked as though they might include something interesting. As Winston wandered towards the table, his eye was caught by a round, smooth thing that gleamed softly in the lamplight, and he picked it up. It was a heavy lump of glass, curved on one side, flat on the other, making almost a hemisphere. There was a peculiar softness, as of rainwater, in both the color and the texture of the glass. As the heart of it, magnified by the curved surface, there was a strange pink convoluted object that recalled a rose or a sea anemone. What is it? Said Winston, fascinated. That's coral, that is, said the old man. It must have come from the Indian Ocean. They used to kind of embed it in the glass. That wasn't made less than 100 years ago. More by the look of it. It's a beautiful thing, said Winston. It is a beautiful thing, said the other appreciatively. Appreciatively, said the other appreciatively. But there's not many that say no nowadays. But there's no many that say so nowadays. He coughed. Now, if it so happened that you wanted to buy it, that cost you $4. I can remember when a thing like that would have fetched £8, and £8 was, well, I can't work with it out, but it was a lot of money. But who cares about genuine antiques nowadays, even the few that's left? Winston immediately paid over the $4 and slid the coveted thing into his pocket. What appealed to him about it was not so much its beauty as the air it seemed to possess of belonging to an age quite different from the present one. The soft rainwater glass was not like any glass that he had ever seen. The thing was dourly, doubly, doubly attractive because of its apparent uselessness. though he could guess that it must once have been intended as a paperweight. It was very heavy in his pocket, but fortunately it did not make much of a bulge. It was a queer thing, even a compromising thing for a party member to have in his possession. Anything old, and for that matter, anything beautiful, was always vaguely suspect. The old man had grown noticeably more cheerful after receiving the $4. Winston realized that he would have accepted three or even two. Okay, so hello again. Wow, I need to go again to scissors. Mickey or Nissim will cut my pony, and then next week. So the phone got hit too much, so I will continue on reading for you, and then I will go to do the working out. So maybe like 10 more minutes or 15, let's see. Okay, so where were okay, so an old-fashioned glass clock with a 12-hour face was ticking away on the mantelpiece. Under the window, the occupying nearly a quarter of the room, was an enormous bed with the mattress still on it. We lived here till my wife died, said the old man half apologetically. I'm selling the furniture off by little and little. Now that's a beautiful mahogany bed, or at least it would be if you could set the bugs out of it. But I dare say you'd find it a little bit cumbersome. He was holding the lamp high up so as to illuminate the whole room, and in the warm, dim light, the place looked curiously inviting. The thought flittered through Winston's mind that it would probably be quite easy to rent the room for a few dollars a week if he dared to take the risk. It was a wild, impossible notion to be abandoned as soon as though is thought of. But the room had awakened in him a sort of nostalgia, a sort of ancestral memory. It seemed to him that he knew exactly what it felt like to sit in a room like this, in an armchair beside an open fire, with your feet in the fender and the kettle off on the hob, utterly alone, utterly secure, with nobody watching you, no voice pursuing you, no sound except the singing of the kettle and the friendly ticking of the clock. There's no telescreen, he would not help murmuring. Ah, said the old man, I never had one of those things. Too expensive, and I never seemed to feel the need of it, somehow. Now that's a nice gate lag table in the corner here. Though, of course, you'd have to put new things on it if you wanted to use the flaps. There's a small bookcase in the other corner, and Winston had already gravitated towards it. It contained nothing but rubbish. The hunting down and destruction of books had been done with the same thoroughness in the Prole quarters as everywhere else. It was very unlikely that there existed anywhere in Oceania a copy of a book printed earlier than 1960. The old man, still carrying the lamp, was standing in front of a picture in a rosewood frame which hung on the other side of the fireplace opposite the bed. Now, if you happen to be interested in old prints at all, he began delicately. Winston came across to examine the picture. It was a still engra- engraving engraving of an oval building with rectangular windows and a small tower in front. There was a railing running around the buildings, and as the rear end, there was that what appeared to be a statue. Winston gazed as it for someone. Um, where Winston gazed as it for some moments. It seemed vaguely familiar, though he did not remember the statue. To put you again high here because it's not warm anymore. I can manage the sun like this. Okay. Yes. Ah, better. But you can see the light of the sunset. Okay. It's holding up. Okay. Great. So, where were I? Mm, okay. Winston gazed at it for some moments. It seemed vaguely familiar, though he did not remember the statue. The frames fixed to the wall, said the old man. But I could unscrew it for you, I dare say. I know that building, said Winston finally. It's a ruin now. It's in the middle of the street outside the Palace of Justice. What? Yeah. That's right, outside the law courts. It was bombed in, oh, many years ago. It was a church at one time. St. Clement Danes, its name was. He smiled apologetically, apologetically, as though conscious of saying something slightly ridiculous, and added, "Oranges and lemons, say the bells of St. Clement's." "What's that?" said Winston. "Oh, oranges and lemons, say the bells of St. Clement's. That was a rhyme we had when I was a little boy. How it goes on, I don't remember, but I do know it ended up, 'Here comes a candle to light you to light you to bed. Here comes the chopper to chop off your head. It was a kind of a dance. They held out their arms for you to pass under, and when they came to here comes a chopper to chop off your head, they brought their arms down and cut you. It was just names of churches. All the London churches were in it. All the principal ones, that is. Winston wondered vaguely to what century the church belonged. It was always difficult to determine the age of a London building. Anything large and impressive, if it was reasonably new in appearance, was automatically claimed as having been built since the Revolution, while anything that was obviously of earlier date was ascribed to some dim period called the Middle Ages. The centuries of capitalism were held to have produced nothing of any value. One could not learn history from our architecture and any more than one could learn it from books. Statues, okay, and statues, inscriptions, memorial stones, the names of streets, anything that might throw light upon the past had been systematically altered. I never knew it had been a church, he said. There's a lot of them left, really, said the old man, though they've been put to other uses. Now, how did the rhyme go? How did that rhyme go? Ah, I've got it. Oranges, lemons, say the bells of St. Clement's. You owe me three farthings, say the bells of St. Martin's. Three farthings. Okay. So, and there now, that's as far as I can get. A farthing, that was a small copper coin, looked something like a cent. Where was St. Martin's? Said Winston. St. Martin's? That's still standing. It's in Victory Square, alongside the picture gallery. A building with a kind of a triangular porch and pillars in front and a big flight of steps. Winston knew the place well. It was a museum used for propaganda displays of various kinds, scale models of rocket bombs and floating fortresses, waxwork tablish illustrating enemy atrocities and the like. St. Martin's in the Fields, it used to be called, supplemented the old man, though I don't recollect any fields anymore in those parts. Winston did not buy the picture. It would have been an even more incongruous possessions than the glass paperweights, and impossible to carry home unless it were taken out of its frame. But he lingered for some minutes more, talking to the old man, whose name he discovered was not Weeks as one might have gathered from the inscription over the shop front, but Charrington. Mr. Charrington, it seemed, was a widower aged 63 and had inhabited this shop for 30 years. Throughout the time, he had been intending to alter the name over the window, but had never quite got to the point of doing it. All the while that they were talking, the half remembered rhyme kept running through Winston's head. Oranges and lemons, say the bells of St. Clements. You owe me three farthings, say the bells of St. Martin's. It was curious, but when you said it to yourself, you had the illusion of actually hearing bells, the bells of a lost London that still existed somewhere or other, disused and forgotten. From one ghostly steeple after another, he seemed to hear them pealing forth. Yet, so far he could remember, he had never in real life heard church bells ringing. He got away from Mr. Charrington and went down the stairs alone, so as not to let the old man see him re- recon- reconnoitering, connoitering the street before stepping out of the door. He had already made up his mind that after a suitable interval, a month say, he would take the risk of visiting the shop again. I was perhaps not more dangerous. It was perhaps not more dangerous than shirking an evening at the center. The serious piece of folly had been to become back here in the first place, after buying the diary and without knowing whether the proprietor of the shop could be trusted. However, yes, he thought again, he would come back. He would buy further scraps of beautiful rubbish. He would buy the engraving of the St. Clement's Danes, take it out of its frame, and carry it home concealed under the jacket of his overalls. He would drag the rest of the poem out of Mr. Charrington's memory. Even the lunatic project of renting the room upstairs flashed momentarily through his mind again. For perhaps 5 seconds, exultation made him careless, and, and he stepped out on to the pavement without so much as a preliminary glance through the window. He had even started humming to an improvised tune. Oranges and lemons, say the bells of St. Clement's. You owe me three, four things, say that. Suddenly his heart seemed to turn to ice and his balls to water bowels. A figure in blue overalls was coming down the pavement, not 10 meters away. It was the girl from the fiction department, the girl with dark hair. The light was failing, but there was no difficulty in recognizing her. She looked him straight in the face, then walked quickly on as though she had not seen him. For a few seconds, Winston was too paralyzed to move. Then he turned to the right and walked heavily away, not noticing for the moment that he was going in the wrong direction. At any rate, one question was settled. There was no doubting any longer that the girl was spying on him. She must have followed him here because it was not credible that by pure chance she should have happened to be walking on the same evening of the same obscure back street, distant from any quarter where party members lived. It was too great a coincidence. Whether she was really an agent of the thought police or simply an amateur spy ac- actuated by officiousness hardly mattered. It was enough that she was watching him. Probably she had seen him go into the pub as well. It was an effort to walk, the lamp of glass in his pocket banged against his thing at each step, and he was half minded to take it out and throw it away. The worst thing was the pain in his belly. For a couple of minutes, he had the feeling that he would die if he did not reach a laboratory soon. But there would be no public laboratories in a quarter like this. Then the spasm passed, leaving a dull ache behind. The street was a blind alley. Winston halted, stood for several seconds, wondering vaguely what to do, then turned round and began to retrace his steps. As he turned, it occurred to him that the girl had only passed him 3 minutes ago and that by running he could probably catch up with her. He could keep on her track till they were in some quiet place and then smash her skull with a cobblestone. The piece of glass in his pocket would be heavy enough for the job, but he abandoned the idea immediately because even the thought of making any physical effort was unbearable. He could not run, he could not strike a blow. Besides, she was young and lusty and would defend herself. She thought he thought also of hurrying to the community center and staying there till the place closed so as to establish a partial alibi for the evening. But that too was impossible. A deadly lassitude had taken hold of him. All he wanted was to get home quickly and then sit down and be quiet. It was after 22 hours when he got back to the flat. The lights would be switched off at the main at 23:30. He went into the kitchen and swallowed nearly a teacupful of Victory gin. Then he went to the table in the alcove, sat down, and took the diary out of the drawer. But he did not open it at once. From the telescreen, a brassy female voice was squalling a patriotic song. He sat staring at the marbled cover of the book, trying without success to shut the voice out of his consciousness. It was at night that they came for you, always at night. And the proper thing was to kill yourself before they got you. Undoubtedly, some people did so. Many of the disappearances were actually suicides, but it needed desperate courage to kill yourself in a world where firearms or any quick and certain poison were completely unapproachable. He thought with a kind of astonishment of the biological uselessness of pain and fear, the treachery of the human body, which always freezes into interia at exactly the moment when a special effort is needed. He might have silenced the dark haired girl if only he had acted quickly enough. But precisely because of the extremity of his danger, he had lost the power to act. It struck him that in moments of crisis, one is never fighting against an external enemy, but always against one's own body. Even now, in spite of the gene, the dual ache in his belly made consecutive thought impossible, and it is the same, he perceived, in all seemingly heroic or tragic situations. On the battlefield, in the torture chamber, on a sinking ship, the issues that you are fighting for are always forgotten because the body swells up until it fills the universe. And even when you are not paralyzed by fright or screaming with pain, life is a moment to moment struggle against hunger or cold or sleeplessness, against a sour stomach or an aching tooth. He opened the diary. It was important to write something down. The woman on the telescreen had started a new song. Her voice seemed to stick into his brain like jagged splinters of glass. He tried to think of O'Brien, for whom or to whom the diary was written, but instead he began thinking of the things that would happen to him after the thought police took him away. It would not matter if they killed you at once. To be killed was what you expected, but before death, nobody spoke of such things, yet everybody knew of them. There was the routine of confession that had begun through, the groveling on the floor and screaming for mercy, the crack of the crack of broken bones, the smashed teeth and bloody clots of hair. Why did you have to endure it, since the end was always the same? Why was it not possible to cut a few days or weeks out of your life? Nobody ever escaped detection, and nobody ever failed to confess. When once you had succumbed to thought crime, it was certain that by a given date you would be dead. Why then did that horror, which altered nothing, have to lie embedded in the future time? He tried with a little more success than before to summon up the image of O'Brien. We shall meet in the place where there is no darkness, O'Brien had to say to him. Had- O'Brien had said to him. He knew what it meant, or though he knew, the place where there is no darkness was the imagined future, which one would never see, but which, by foreknowledge, one could mystically share in. But with a voice from the telescreen nagging at his ears, he could not follow their train of thought further. He put a cigarette in his mouth. Half the tobacco promptly fell out onto his tongue, a bitter dust which was difficult to spit out again. The face of Big Brother swam into his mind, displacing that of O'Brien, just as he had done a few days earlier. He slid a coin out of his pocket and looked at it. The face gazed up at him, heavy, calm, protecting. But what kind of smile was hidden beneath the dark mustache? Like a little knell, the words came back at him. War is peace. Freedom is slavery. Ignorance is strength. And here we go. Part 2. It will be next time. Part 2, Chapter 1. The bookmark of my Arabic words that I will teach you soon. Juma. So now we will go to the walking out here. You are welcome to join. I hope you listened, and then it's not the first time you already listened to the previous lives. So see you in a few minutes in the working out live. Ciao.